video for the day is actually a very long time coming. I actually did a review of this particular book like early on in October, but I hated it and I had to redo it and I just never got around to doing it. So I apologize that it's come so long after its relevancy, but I feel like the issues that I bring up in this are issues that are like continuing in the genre. So I wanted to just talk about Awoken by Serra Elinsen. And I'm sure all of you guys know by now that this was part of the project Shades of Green by the Nostalgia Chick, of writing a parody of like the cliches in paranormal young adult literature and doing it with the Cthulhu mythos, Lovecraft. And I went to the book signing. I actually got it signed by the writers, and it was a really fun time. I really liked it. It was nice talking to everybody about it. And as I was coming up with the review, I saw that there was a lot of backlash about the novel, about people feeling like it was making fun of the people that liked YA. And so part of this is just me talking a little bit about the book, because it's been out for so long, you guys know what it's about. I'll just say a little bit about my opinion about it, what I think, how it works as a parody, and I'll talk a little bit about like my feelings on that idea, if it's making fun of YA. And just to disclaim, yeah, I like the Nostalgia Chick. I really like her videos. Do I agree with everything she says? No, because that's discourse. But I really think this project was a really fun thing to follow. That's why I wanted to buy the book and be there and be a part of that, because I feel like there are important things to address in YA. I feel like she was addressing them with this book. And while I have things that I wish were done differently, I admire the project. I admire what she was trying to do. And I respect the final product. But let me talk about the book itself. So Awoken is basically about this self-flagellating girl named Andromeda Slate, who has a dream about this giant sea monster. And in her dream, the sea monster is defeated by this really good-looking dude named Riley, who arrives at her school after her ethnic scrappy friend Vic, who's Indian, finds a Necronomicon, and they do a spell from it, and he arrives at the school. And she falls in love with him, obviously, and they, there's also a new professor in school. Her name is Scarlet, and Andromeda is intimidated by her because she's a sexually empowered woman, and that frightens Andromeda, who is too average and normal for anyone to ever love. So she falls in love with Riley. Riley treats her like crap, but she finds it attractive. She almost gets sexually assaulted. Riley saves her, and because of that, she feels like Riley is the perfect prince of heaven, earth, and hell. They end up going to New York City to go see Phantom of the Opera because it's the best musical ever. Not really. Into the Woods, Sondheim is everything. And they fall in love. They realize that the end of the world is coming. She realizes that Riley is actually Cthulhu, and that she helped stop him from taking over the world, from destroying the world, because it's his job to bring about the gods, and they, you know, Lovecraft and all that jazz. And what I think is fun about this novel is that as someone who's read a lot of YA, everything that you see in it is something that you've seen somewhere before, played straight, and that makes it very funny. And Andy is so hateful and self-flagellant and frustrating to read. Like, even though it's a parody, I hated her like the entire time, because she's just whiny and complaining, and she treats the people around her like shit because she's just a shitty person inside. And it was fun for me because I could just see so many things in her. But at the same time, she had a personality, which was really different, because I could actually tell you about Andromeda. You know, she hates her name, she's moved around a lot, she has a backstory, she has friends. The fact that she actually had friends, you know, is a surprise to me. Her friend Bree is actually more interesting than she is completely. But the fact that she had a history to me was kind of like, oh wow, you know, she's actually a person, a hateful, terrible person, but people like that exist, so that's fair. Riley, while he was super patronizing, super verbally abusive, and treated Andy like shit, he's actually not as bad as Patch. Because Patch to me is like the worst of the YA boyfriends. And he wasn't even so, and I will even say this, that to a degree Riley was kind of cool. His ability to like basically, you know, cause madness in people, because that's what Cthulhu can do, because, you know, just the sight of him is enough to instill kind of like that kind of madness within a person. That was interesting. That was his ability. That's what he could do. And their relationship, while, you know, very painful, this at times was so painful that I kind of was like, if it were a different novel, this would kind of be cute. If there was so much that wasn't going on that was really problematic, this would be kind of cute. And the villainess, Scarlet, was so funny to me because she's just so hammy and over the top in camp. Like, honestly, she would be like a Buffy villainess because of the way she just comes in. It's kind of like, yeah, I'm your new teacher. I know nothing about biology, but, you know, whatever. It's like, and the jealousy that Andy feels about her just being around, like, she's not doing it, she's just there, and she's attractive, and that just bothers her so deeply. It's funny because it's so sad, because it's so true in so many other novels. And I feel like that's what makes this book so much fun, is that you see these things and it's played for laughs, but I feel like if you care about that kind of stuff, it actually makes you think, because it's like, we support that in so many other things, you know, but in this is a parody and it's a joke and we can laugh about it. But in so many other texts, it's played straight. The only problems I really had with this novel, ignoring that it's a parody, was that I felt like some parts kind of like went on for a while. I felt like, you know, it could have been cut more. And that, again, works with the genre that it's parodying, but just for me as a reader, I just kind of felt like, okay, I could do without this a little bit. And the repetition did kind of, sometimes it worked for me, sometimes it didn't. It had some really fun passages. I mean, I wrote all over this book because it was just, I made notes because I really, like, it. Not only did I enjoy reading it, but I enjoyed noticing the things that they put into it that made me realize that even though this was made for fun and this was made as a joke, there was effort put into making this have a lot to say without having to need to say something for you to enjoy it. And I think that that's one of the good things about this novel, that you can read it as a parody and like it. You can read it straight and also like it if that's your prerogative. And you can also read it as a satire and enjoy it as seeing also that they make fun of, that they address in the novel. And you can read on all three of those lenses and you can get something out of it. So I feel like in that thing, it's a success. The writing isn't perfect because it was written very quickly, so it's not like stellar writing all through. But I feel like if you enjoy YA parodies, you've been looking for a good one, because a lot of them really aren't that good because they try so hard to be Twilight. This is not Twilight. It has the same kind of formula, but it is very much its own thing, while channeling so many other things in itself. And I think that's what makes it a good parody, a good entertaining read if you were interested in YA parodies. So I definitely give it 3.5 stars. It's really fun. I really enjoyed it. It has its issues, like I said, a little too at points. And even though Andy is supposed to be unlikable, I just hate her so much. I just wanted to just whoosh, into the ground. I couldn't tolerate it. She's so hateful in a way that is just aggressively insulting to deal with. But yeah, 3-4 stars I would definitely give it. It was really enjoyable. I definitely liked it. Now for the claim about it making fun of people who love YA literature, especially young girls and women. And I think that I get that. I do. Because for us ladies, what we enjoy, what we like is often more heavily criticized than what guys like. People make fun of Transformers for being dude bro-y, but people still accept that in a way that they don't accept chick flicks and those kind of things. It's always seen as, you know, a weird perversion thing. Like, if a guy likes a chick flick, he's weird. But if a girl likes Transformers, it's like, well, Transformers is awesome. So I understand the reluctance to accept something that seems to be making fun of something that a lot of women enjoy. But at the same time, speaking for myself, because I can only speak for myself, a lot of the issues that are brought up in this parody and in the making of this parody are hugely important. You may not agree with, you know, the use of humor to make it work, but for me, I feel like it makes sense. There are people who will definitely use this book as a way of making fun of women who like YA. I do think that happens, and that's unfair. But I do feel like there are huge issues in YA that get brushed aside because of people being afraid of that issue. Like, this is a genre that features women, largely consumed and written by women, and yet this is a genre that also glorifies abusive relationships. Other genres do it. Don't get me wrong, I read adult paranormal urban fiction. Adult novels do it too. But these are series that are directed towards teens and young adults. You know, like, tweens and up. And at that age, depending on, you know, your background, you're more susceptible to those things than you would be if you were older. Adults, we assume, can make those decisions for themselves, like the difference between entertainment and not. And while plenty of teens can, I definitely think it's patronizing to say that they can't, these ideas are being promoted in a way that is definitely not encouraging to these young women who are growing up in a society that already tells them that certain actions are okay. For people, it's okay for people to, like, hurt you if they mean well. Because we show that all the time. We show people in abusive relationships who it's okay that he does this to you or wants to overly protect you because he loves you. All the time we show that to them. So we have to address it when it comes up in novels, things that are directed directly towards them. You know, and not to mention that, like, while there is the issue of this, like, there's abusive relationships, there are abusive relationships, sexist attitudes towards women, and that reduces these female characters to the point where they hate themselves, and can only find, you know, some sort of sense of self in another person, which is usually a male. In addition to just having, you know, the gender issues, we also have a genre that completely, you know, doesn't represent anyone who isn't white, middle class, and straight. You know, I think what I always think of when I think of, like, YA that's horrible that also gets attention, besides Hush Hush, is the House of Night series. I mean, that's one of the most racist, sexist, heteronormative series ever. And the thing about it too is that it has black and gay characters, but treats them in such a stereotypical way that it almost doesn't matter. Because, you know, this is a series where you have the lead character kill 2 black men by pushing them off so they can get hit by a truck and doesn't give a shit about it. Because they catcalled at her because she was trying to have sex with her boyfriend on a bench. Catcalling is not right. But the way that these black male bodies are treated in this book is horrible. The women in that novel, she slut shames one girl for giving a blowjob to her boyfriend, and then, because he's called her a slut, call her a hoe, call her all these different kind of names, at the same time while she's having 3 boyfriends. But it's okay because that girl is a real slut. It's okay to slut shame women who you don't like. It's okay to slut shame women who don't matter to you. And that's what these kind of books, and this is a New York Times bestseller. It has, you know, I'm surprised it hasn't a TV show by now, and when it does, I will definitely be crying into my pillow because it's horrible. And it's not just that. There are so many series that have women who are afraid of other females, who dismiss other women as not being good enough for them, who allow these male characters to dominate over them because they're weak and they're women and they need to be treated like that. And it's so aggravating because, you know, we know women who think those things, who think it's okay for a guy to be aggressive because they mean well, or think it's okay that they, like, there's nothing wrong with a man wanting to take care of you, wanting to protect you. Like, people should want to do it to other, you should want to do that to your boyfriend, you should want to do it to your girlfriend, whatever. But it's about consent. It's about, you know, recognizing how a person should be treated, regardless of their gender. You should treat people with respect. And if they don't respect you, then there's no love. And yet, we have no problem perpetuating these things in YA. And it's a problem. It's a fucking problem. And it's been one for years. And you know what? Just because a lot of young girls like it doesn't mean that is not an issue. I love a lot of YA. I still read YA. I want to write YA. I love it. You know, I love Vampire Academy, and that's highly problematic. And there are also great, amazing young adult writers out there. Libba Bray, who is my goddess of all, she's amazing. Tamara Pierce has been writing fantastic YA for decades. No movie, no TV show, not a goddamn thing, but she's been writing it for decades and it's amazing. Now Michael Grant, so many other writers who've been doing stuff that have diverse casts. I mean, the diversity in Tamara Pierce's fantasy novels shits on people's lives. I swear to God. Like, I don't understand why they haven't been made into anything yet, but like, you know what? Because it's just too fucking good. It will shit on everyone else's life. But we so want to just be like, oh, it's for women. We have to be like this kind of like, this like hive mind. Like, I'm a feminist. I am. But there's more to feminism than just gender. You know, it's the intersectionality of like race and neurotypicality and LGBT issues. Like, we have to address the fact that we are dealing with a genre that treats non-white women like crap. that treats gay characters like crap. That, like, I can't even think of a trans character in a YA novel. I hope that one is there. There probably is. I probably haven't read it, but they should be there. And the fact that paranormal, you know, YA is so popular that you know, sort of like normal contemporary YA that just like about regular teen issues that do have those kind of things are just completely thrown aside is also horrible. So we have to address these things, whether we do it by comedy or by actually writing a series that actually has characters that don't fit that mold. It has to be done. And I don't think that the nostalgia chick meant to make fun of people who like YA, because she does like YA, but I feel like there have been so many people like myself, like others, who have been talking about that this has been an issue for years, and that it needs to be dealt with because there's no excuse for it. We run this genre, and we should be able to do it in a way that promotes healthy relationships for young people. And if we can't do that, if that's not making money, if healthy relationships, and I don't mean healthy as in boring, and that's the other thing too, like, if you want to have a relationship between two people that is dark, that is troubling, that's fine if you write it that way. If you want to write a couple that's dark and troubling, but it's true, sweet, beautiful love, it's the best thing ever, that's the problem. No one is saying we have to make a world that's all dandelions and sunshine and rainbows and things like Captain Planet. No one's saying that. But we also have to recognize that we have to be responsible with what we put out there. Okay? Because it's not just for us. It's for people who get it. And we live in a reality where, unfortunately, parents have to their kids. Parents do not sit down and tell their kids, oh, this is that, this is that. They will learn from media, unfortunately. That's just life. And if these writers are going to subject to writing these women who get abused, like the fucking host, where she gets beat up by this guy and falls in love with him. Fucking horrible. Horrible. But successful as hell. We have to challenge that. And I think this book challenges that. It does it with humor, but it's important. Like, at the end of the day, the fact that this book actually addresses the racial issues with Vic in a funny way. It's a subtle way. Like, it's, and I think, like, of course, could it do more? Yeah. But the way that they just, the sort of demeaning ways that they will describe not-like characters in this book that they did with with Vic, is, I loved it. That's what made me, like, I was like, she put that in there. Like, thank you for finally putting that in there. I wish I could have had more stuff about, like, you know, gay characters and things like that. But to address those issues is so important. And it did that. So many other books don't. So for that, it gets my support in that. And it's not perfect. I do think they could have addressed other things better. And I do think eventually what will be the end game, and I think it would be for them too, is to have a book that actually challenges those things in a deeper way than not just parody. But I think for a parody, it succeeded. And it did those things really well. And that's my opinion on it. And I think that it's important, because, you know, I've criticized, you know, other people from nostalgia. Like, it's just, you know, we all have to have discourse. We all are not going to just agree with kind of a hive mind. Even if we do agree that we're both feminists or not feminists or whatever, we're not a hive mind. We all are going to think differently, want things differently. But for me, for Melina, what's important to me is that we let people know that while we shouldn't be attacking the women who like YA, because we all like stuff that ain't shit. Let's not lie. We all like stuff that ain't shit. But we still should talk about the problems in these things and hope to make them better. Because if we don't make them better, it's going to stay shitty. Because just recently, I was looking at a word cloud on Tumblr that was saying perfect men only found in books or something along that lines, and they had Edward and Patch along with the men in there. Fucking Patch from Hush Hush, who tried to kill his love interest in the goddamn book. And that's a perfect man. We can do better. I've seen better. Let's promote that.